Okay, I'm live. Hello, everybody. Chuck Holton here. How's it going? Thank you for joining me on the Hot Zone. I am in Jordan tonight, just across the Dead Sea. I'm at the Dead Sea Hilton tonight, and we are just finishing up our tour, our 2024 tour of viewers to Israel and Jordan. We've had a fantastic trip. We've got a great group of people, and it's been a lot of fun. And I want to talk more about that, but I don't have a ton of time, so I want to first just say that I'm going to be talking tonight about the threat that Iran is making against not just its enemy Israel, but against all of the neighbors in its region. As a matter of fact, Iran is trying to hold the world hostage at this point by threatening everybody trying to stop Israel from retaliating against it for the attack that took place on October 1st. And we were here in Amman, Jordan, and watched the attack take place. We watched it happen. It was unbelievable. You can go back and watch that live and see what it looked like. So Iran is really, really scared of what is about to take place. And I would still say that it's a certainty, all but a certainty, that Israel is going to respond against Iran in a forceful way, in a kinetic way, very soon. Now, if they don't, that will tell us just how much sway the United States has over Israel, because Israel is bound and determined now to respond, and the United States is doing everything it can. The Biden administration is doing everything it can to keep it from responding. And so it's a fierce battle at the highest levels between the Biden administration and Bibi Netanyahu and his administration. So just in the last few days, Netanyahu gave a speech, and the speech was directed at the people of Iran. This was interesting. He's done this a couple times in the recent history, where he's spoken to the people of the nations that they're at war with. So just before they went into Lebanon, he gave a speech directed to the Lebanese people, telling them, Hezbollah is not your friend. You need to rise up. You need to throw them off. And we're going to help you by weakening them as much as we can. But we don't have a fight with you. That was basically his message to the people of Lebanon. Now, this is also his message to the people of Iran. Just a couple days ago, with this speech he gave, he condemned Iran's leadership for prioritizing the fight against Israel over the welfare of its own people. He said, quote, every day you see a regime that subjugates you make fiery speeches about defending Lebanon, defending Gaza, adding that the Iranian government was plunging the region deeper into darkness and deeper into war. He spoke very clearly about the fact that the IDF does not have a problem with the Iranian people, and they would love nothing more than to see the regime come down so that the Persian people can recover their country. And he said, this is the part I like the best. He said, imagine if all the vast money that the regime is wasting on nuclear weapons program, wars in foreign countries, was instead invested in the kids' education, in improving healthcare, in building the nation's infrastructure, in water and sewage and all the other things that the Iranians need. Just imagine what Iran could look like. It almost sounds like he's running for office in Iran, but what he's trying to do is convince the Iranian people that what is about to happen is going to be meant to assist the Iranian people and not harm the Iranian people even if it hurts. Like when your parents used to say, this is going to hurt me more than it hurts you. That's kind of what Netanyahu is saying now. He said, quote, when Iran is finally free, and that moment will come a lot sooner than people think, our two ancient peoples, the Jewish people and the Persian people, will finally be at peace. Our two countries, Israel and Iran, will be at peace. Now, many people don't realize that Iran and Israel have not always been enemies. As a matter of fact, up until the Shah of Iran was deposed back in the 1980s, Iran and Israel were allies. And Netanyahu is saying that they can be again. He's just, appealing to the people of Iran to rise up and throw off this theocratic dictatorship that they've been living under, and kind of hinting that there might not be any better time than soon, because the IDF is going to be doing something specifically to bring that regime down. Now, some people have even said that it's possible that Netanyahu could be, that what they might be about to do is to actually strike at the Ayatollah Khamenei. Now, it's kind of a unwritten rule, or in some cases kind of written rule, that you don't go after the leaders of a country. The United States said, I think during the Reagan administration, that they would not target the leaders of any country for assassination, because then that kind of opens us up to our leaders being targeted for assassination as well. Well, we have seen in the recent weeks and months that as Donald Trump has been targeted not once, not twice, but potentially 3 times because of a bomb that they found near one place he was going to be, that and they know that some of these plots to take out Donald Trump were fostered by the Iranians. So we know that the Iranians don't have much of a problem with taking out another country's leaders, especially if it is somebody that might not play well with them. Now, we haven't seen anything about them planning to take out Joe Biden, because Joe Biden has been a good friend to Iran. So I got to watch the time because I've got a Newsmax hit coming up here in under an hour. But I want to go back and before I continue on this thread about what Iran is doing, we're also going to be talking about how UNIFIL, the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, has been caught in the crossfire in the last 24 hours in the battles that are taking place inside Lebanon, and in so doing had some of their peacekeepers shot and actually wounded in the fighting. So I'm going to talk about that in just a second too. But first I want to go back and just mention the trip that we're finishing up here. So on October 1st, we started a trip here in Jordan with a very, very intrepid group of people. We had about 42, I think 44, something like that, travelers. They flew into Amman, Jordan, the night that Iran attacked Israel with 201 ballistic munitions. And so the very first thing that happened was they got an amazing light show overhead as our shofar apps were absolutely going crazy on our phones. We stepped outside to see these streaks of light coming from the direction of Iran and other streaks of light coming from the direction of Israel, and they're intersecting right over our heads. And you see these boom, big explosions. There was falling shrapnel. Several houses in the area around our hotel caught fire. It was crazy. And these people, of course, there's no shelters in Jordan, so everybody just went outside and took pictures of what was happening. And I promised them an exciting trip, but that was a little more than I had expected. That was not on the agenda. And it caused some of our group to actually get their flights canceled coming in, and then they didn't catch up for a couple of days. That was crazy. We went from there for 3 days and traveled through Jordan. Jordan being 60% Palestinian, we had to tell people, listen, don't say the word Israel. Don't say the word missionary, because the people here, if you're on the street and you're, talking about, oh, we're going to Israel, they're not going to be happy. They call it Palestine over there. So you just have to be careful what you say and how you say it and to whom you say it. But they did great. Very intrepid group of people. We went to Petra. They learned a ton about the regional dynamics and just how hospitable the people are in Jordan. And now I am not going to do another trip to Jordan because of something that happened today, which I'm going to tell you about in just a second. Anyway, from Jordan, we crossed into Eilat, down in the southern part of Israel, and then we went up to the Dead Sea. We spent a couple days in Jerusalem, and on October 7th, we went down to the site of the Nova Music Festival and to Sderot, two places that were heavily attacked in that horrific event 1 year ago. They got to stand on an overlook and look into Gaza and see the destruction, hear the fighting, watch airstrikes taking place. This is not your normal tourist tour, as you can imagine. They started calling it Safety Third Tours. And we did everything to keep them safe, but they just, it's not the kind of thing that you get to do on normal tours, right? Then from there, went to the Nova Music Festival site, and very sobering, just there was over 400 people that were casualties there of the attacks on October 7th a year ago. And they were all young people. That was the thing that really got me. Walking through the memorial there with all the photographs of these kids that were just there, it was, a dance party. That's the ages of my kids. I've got 5 children, and wow, it was hard to see. It was hard to see. So went from there up to the Sea of Tiberias. We stopped to see the Israel guys along the way and check out their place at HaYovel. Went and overlooked Nablus, biblical Shechem, and saw the birthplace of the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade, because that's important for a tourist trip. And then we went up to Lake Tiberias, or the Sea of Galilee, and we surprised everybody with a little side trip to Jish, one of my favorite places in Israel, the Maronite Christian community, only 2 miles from the Lebanese border. And so we got to go up there just very quickly and get out and listen to airstrikes happening inside Lebanon, to hear the combat, see the smoke of the fires, and even see some interceptions as rockets were fired into Israel. Again, not your typical vacation, but they were amazed. People were just like, I can't believe we just did this. This is nuts. And I was kind of surprised that we were even able to get up there, because most of that area is a closed military zone now. But we were, so we went. And then we enjoyed the Sea of Galilee a little bit more, and then crossed back into Jordan today. That's where things kind of went wrong. That crossing back into Jordan was an absolute nightmare. It was really bad. And I've had other nightmares crossing the border between Jordan and Israel, but this was the worst so far. Probably worse for me, because I had all these other people to take care of. But just almost like, it's one of those times where you just go, you look at these bureaucrats in there, and you just think, do they have a committee of people that just sits around and goes, how can we make this more excruciating? We've got to find ways to make this stupider. This is our job. And they're very good at making it stupider, and they're very good at making it harder. We had several people who had gifts that they had purchased in Jordan confiscated by the Jordanian police as they were entering back into Jordan. Oh, you can't have those here. Wait a minute, we bought those here. They've still got the price tags on them. We've got the receipts from the stores in Petra. Oh, yeah, but sorry, you're not allowed to have them here. They just wanted them. And I mean, that was just a clown show, absolute clown show. It's such a clown show that I told the official, I said, you guys are hurting for tourists, right? Oh, yes, very much so. So you're glad to have tourists in your country? Oh, yes, very much so. Well, guess what? I'm never bringing tourists back to Jordan. Never. You put us through this kind of garbage, and you actually think we're going to want to come here? Forget it. We're not coming back, and we're not spending any more money in Jordan. I was a little hot in more ways than, I mean, it was hot out. I was sweaty, which it says in my contract, I don't have to sweat, so I have to call my agent. And we'd been there for 4 hours, and they were just giving everybody the runaround, being stupid. And I was like, had it up to here, trying very hard to keep it together today. All right, back to the news at hand. Let's talk about UNIFIL. UNIFIL, the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, has been around since like 1978. Their job, first of all, they're stationed, it's about 10,000 troops from around the world. I forget how many countries, it's dozens of countries that contribute forces to this. The United States is not one of them because they don't want U.S. forces along that border. But you have forces from Indonesia and Ireland and China and garden spots like that who make up UNIFIL. Their mandate is to patrol the area south of the Litani River. It's a 75-mile corridor, 75 miles wide and about 18 miles deep, to patrol that area and make sure that Hezbollah does not move military forces into that area and that Israel doesn't move military forces into that area. Well, since 1978, they've been spectacularly failing at that job, doing an absolutely bang-up job of doing nothing and spending lots of money in the process. So they get about $480 million a year, just UNIFIL, just that organization, to do their nothing in the most profanely expensive way possible. About $125 million of that money comes directly from the U.S. taxpayer. Well, I say directly through the UN, so that's indirectly. But the U.S. taxpayer funds about $125 million a year of that mission. And they have done exactly bupkis to fulfill their mission and keep Hezbollah out and keep there from being conflict along that border. There have been several times where they have been not just accused, but actually caught assisting Hezbollah rather than stopping them. And it's said that the UNIFIL forces have to clear any patrol that they do with Hezbollah, and then Hezbollah tells them which roads they can travel, which areas they are allowed to look at, and which areas they are not. And the UNIFIL bases, which are arrayed all along the border with Israel, make very handy places from which to fire munitions at Israel, because then Israel can't fire back without the fear of hitting UN troops. So you can imagine this is just it's just great. It just keeps getting better. So when Israel decided it was time to go into Lebanon last week and actually start routing these rats out of their holes, Hezbollah and force them to get back north of the Litani River and decimate their leadership. And they have found hundreds of tons of explosives and missiles and munitions and weapons and all kinds of fun stuff. Tunnels going across the border into Israel. They found all sorts of things. And oh, by the way, where do you think their headquarters were found? The headquarters where the Hassan Nasrallah was eliminated in Dahia neighborhood south of Beirut. Oh yeah, it was under a UN school. One of the 6-story buildings that was taken out by the bunker busters that they dropped 80-something tons of them on top of that area in order to get Hassan Nasrallah. One of the 6-story buildings was a UN school. Why am I not surprised? So they've been doing a great job, actually. The IDF has been pushing in there, starting small and then working their way up. They've been conducting hundreds of air strikes into Lebanon every day, deep into Lebanon, way even far north of Beirut, conducting all these airstrikes. And what does UNIFIL do? UNIFIL starts putting out messaging like, this is very, very bad. They shouldn't be here. We need a ceasefire. They're destroying the local villages. And yeah, it actually turns out it's a lot like Gaza in that pretty much every building has been militarized by Hezbollah. And Israel has a real habit of destroying the buildings that are a threat to Israel. You know, if they have like a missile array inside their living room, stuff like that, Israel tends to bulldoze buildings like that or cause them to spontaneously combust. And they've been going house to house and doing that all across the border for more than a week now. What does UNIFIL do? That wrings its hands, lights its hair on fire, runs around in circles and starts screaming about how Israel is the problem here. Yeah, if only Israel would just pull out and leave them alone, everything would be fine, and Hezbollah could get back to trying to, murder as many Israelis as possible. That's what they want, apparently. So obviously that's a non-starter for Israel, but it's no surprise then that Israel has advised UNIFIL that it might be a good idea for them to, take a vacation. Go somewhere else for a while we clean things up around here and do the job that you haven't done since the 1970s. Bunch of jackwagons. Anyway, what does UNIFIL do? Oh, no, we can't leave. We have to fulfill our mission. It's our mission to keep you out. So they refuse to leave. And surprise, surprise, when it turns out that Hezbollah is acting from near one of the UNIFIL bases, and the Israelis shoot at those bad people, then some UNIFIL troops get wounded. And I tell you what, this is exactly what Hezbollah has been waiting for. And probably UNIFIL, for that matter. Because now they get, the Israelis they're wounding our brave UN soldiers. Really? I mean, anybody with 3 brain cells to rub together can plainly see that the UNIFIL sees its mission as protecting Hezbollah. Anybody with, a room temperature IQ can figure this out. They don't even really try to hide it anymore. I mean, probably a 3rd grader could see this. And this is your tax dollars at work if you live in the Western world. I have to say, I've been doing this job as a war correspondent for more than 20 years, and I have never seen a UN peacekeeping force that actually kept the peace. They're toothless, and they're worse than worthless because they actually end up exacerbating the problem that they're meant to address. It's not just UNRWA, it's not just UNIFIL, it's not just UNDOF in Syria, it's not just MINUSTA in Haiti. It's like every place I've ever been where there's a UN peacekeeping force, that force makes it worse. I remember going to Congo one time and interviewing a group of about 40 women who banded together and took over an abandoned farm with a high wall all around it, and then hired a private security force to protect them from the UN peacekeepers who kept raping them. Because these people they come from countries, these UN peacekeepers, if they're coming from Sierra Leone, yeah, let's get some peacekeepers in here from Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone doesn't know what peace looks like. They have no idea. They've never seen anything like it. Worse than worthless. That is the most charitable thing that I can say about the United Nations writ large. The UN, as it turns out, in UN actually stands for unhelpful. So forgive me if I get a little fired up about that, but holy cow, these guys, everything they do, it's like they've created these entities specifically to just hate on Israel, to just try to destroy Israel. I mean, that's what it's all about for them. This is the end all and be all of their existence for the United Nations. Every fiber of their being is about trying to destroy Israel. It's mind-boggling. Okay. Jimmy says, Jay-Z says, I think they will attack during the holidays. Well, this is something that, they know is coming. This attack is coming, and Iran is saying, if Israel attacks us, if Israel retaliates for our for the largest ballistic missile attack in history, if Israel retaliates for that, we're going to not only shoot back at Israel, but we're going to shoot back at every other country in the region. We're going to shoot back at Azerbaijan. We're going to shoot back at Saudi Arabia. We're going to shoot at Jordan. We're going to shoot at everybody. And it'll all be Israel's fault. Not only that, we're going to pull out of the JCPOA, the joint, what does that JCPOA stand for? Joint, hello. That's UNIFIL. Comprehensive Plan of Action. The Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. That's the nuclear proliferation deal that the Biden administration has been just rabidly trying to get Iran back into. Iran saying, no, we're not going to be a part of that anymore. Now, they've been saying this for 10 years or more, that Iran is only this far away from getting a nuclear weapon. And these talks have sort of alternately slowed down that process and then sped up that process. These different agreements that the EU has tried to get with Iran, the United States has tried to get with Iran, has all been sort of aimed at hopefully slowing down Iran's nuclear ambitions, because that's all we need is a, theocratic dictatorship full of whack jobs that's got a nuclear weapon. And so this deal really was not much of a deal, especially for the American taxpayer, when we're sending $400 million in pallets full of cash over there during the Obama administration. And Biden, the first thing he tries to do on day one of his administration is try to reinstitute this thing. But now Iran is trying to hold the entire world hostage by saying we're going to pull out of that completely and start and crank up our nuclear ambitions if the United States allows Israel to strike at us. For its part, the United States is saying to Israel, please, please, please don't do it. We'll slap a few more sanctions on Iran and we'll call it good. So you don't have to attack them. We'll just put some more sanctions on them, as if the sanctions that we've had on them for decades have done any good at all, which they haven't really. I mean, I did a whole podcast a while back on how good Iran has gotten at getting around the sanctions that are already on it. So those sanctions really, they don't help. They don't help a lot. Okay, folks, real quick before I have to go, please go hit that like button. We've got 900 likes and 3,000 people online, so let's get those numbers up. That tells YouTube more people need to see this. And I see that one person signed up as a new subscriber because of this live. That's sad. Usually we have a couple hundred at least. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel and you like this content, you find it entertaining, you find it informative, then it's free. Just go hit the subscribe button here on YouTube. Go do that, and you can get notified when I'm about to go live. Also, want you to know that at chuckholton.com, you can go over there and you can subscribe and become or become a supporter. Subscribe for free or become a supporter for $7 a month. And that helps that's an insurance for me so I can stay on the road and keep doing what I do without having the sword of Damocles held by YouTube floating over my head at all times. Because if I happen to say the wrong word, there's literally words, if you say it once, like you could end up losing your entire account. And so I have to be careful about it. Do you know anything about the American journalist that Israel arrested? No, I am not familiar with that. Keep it simple. I'll have to go look that up. That sounds like an interesting story. Does Israel have iron beam in space that can take out Iran satellites? No, it doesn't. The Arrow anti-missile system can go into space, but it's not meant to go after satellites. It's meant to go after missiles, and that's all. Has the 4.0 earthquake in Iran been confirmed an actual earthquake or nuke test underground? Robert, I believe it is I believe it's a actual earthquake, because if it was a nuke test, we would pretty much know it for sure, and it would be big news. So I'm going to say that I'm going to come down on the side of it was probably an earthquake, because earthquakes happen every day in Iran. And so at 4.0 earthquake is not that big of a deal in Iran. They just call that Tuesday. Now, it's possible. I just think it's more likely that it was just an earthquake. Do you know anything? Okay, so keep it simple. Ask that question twice. What needs to be done about the UN? Well, first of all, if I was president, had my way, we would not be funding any of these peacekeeping missions that don't keep the peace. And I don't know about pulling out of the UN, because then you just make China and Russia and Iran more powerful. So I don't know about pulling out, but we fund 26% of the UN's budget. And so the UN would be pretty strapped if the United States said, you know what, as long as you guys are assisting these terrorist organizations, we're not going to give you any money. There's a whole lot of nations that are members of the UN that don't give them any money, that don't pay their dues to be in the club, so to speak, like Palestine, for one. And so if the United States decided to do that, we could put a real crimp in their jive, if you know what I mean. Okay, so thank you for hitting that like button. Man, we just popped right up there, like 500 likes. So keep going, hit the like button and subscribe, and go to chuckholton.com. Over there, you'll find a lot of stuff. And look, I've been working on these. I'm going to get a book out before the election on how to survive the craziness that will probably happen around and after the election, no matter who wins. And this is based on some very obscure military manuals that I dug up that you can't find anymore. And they really apply very strongly to civilian life and to helping you be more prepared for shenanigans happening in your local area. And so I found these manuals years ago when I was in Afghanistan, and I thought at the time this would make a great prepper book. And so I'm adapting it to a civilian mindset, and you're going to love it. So you can get a preview of that by becoming a supporter over at chuckholton.com. And I highly recommend you do so. Okay, I've got to go get ready for my live hit on Newsmax coming up. So thank you very much for watching tonight. And I pray that you all have a great rest of your day. And I will be on again tomorrow from here in Jordan. And so stay tuned. All right, see you later.